This is Untying the Knots, read by author Lonnee Rey, Rattled Awake, Volume 4. Dad, why do we hear the noise after the plane goes by? My brother Dane looked up at Dad, whose chest puffed out when he explained sound travels at a different speed than light. Dad had all the answers. Without missing a beat, Dad turns to me and said, "Why don't you ever ask good questions like your brother?" Oh, I got questions, Pops. Truth should not fear investigation. Is it all already done? Why do accidents happen? What makes us want what we want? Why does it seem we cannot avoid troubled waters? How in the world is this happening for me, not against me? Why am I here? What's the point? Why bother? Mom, Dad. My tiny hand knocked lightly at their bedroom door. I needed their help, but was scared to death they would answer. Just 8 years old, I already knew that no matter what I did, I was in trouble. Unless it was being mini mom to my twin brothers who arrived the year before. Then I had purpose. Otherwise, I was in the way. Maybe that's why I took far too many baby aspirin that night. Was it one too many heartbreaking events where I was teased at school and even more so when I got home? Why didn't my parents love me enough to soften the blows, but rather took delight in chiding me into more tears? Get away from me. I don't like you very much right now. Ouch, Mom. All these events ran through my head as I knocked a bit harder on their door. Mommy? What? What do you want? Her voice made the door shake, I swear. Crying. I managed to say, I'm scared. I'm scared. Even though I was sure they didn't care if they found me dead in the morning, I had to say something. I took a bunch of baby aspirin and now I'm scared. Go back to bed. Well, they never came to check on me that night. Confirmation of my worst fear. I really didn't matter. I was inconvenient and in the way. That might explain why, 2 years before, my mother announced a weekend trip I was going on. Daddy Don is coming. He's your real father. He wants to see you after all these years. What? When you were a baby, after a visit with him, you came home hurt. I took you to the hospital to treat the welts and handprints left all over your back, bottom, and legs, and he was called in for questioning. Yeah, I spanked her. That isn't all I did. If it wasn't for Karen, she'd be dead, is what he told the doctors. He tried to suffocate you with a pillow, she said, to try and stop you from crying. We left him right after that. So, he's coming to take you and your brother to Atlantic City this weekend. Have a good time. I was 6 years old. Wait, what? Who is this other guy I call Dad? The one that loves to bully me to tears? You know, Maurice, the pedophile you married after leaving the rageaholic Daddy Don? I wish I'd had the words. No words was the year before, when my mother told me the twins have different fathers. You see, I was going to leave Maurice for his best friend Ray when I found out I was pregnant, and we didn't know until later, and suddenly there were two heartbeats. But don't tell anybody. The twins are technically 6 weeks apart, and doctors held back Jason's birth so Matthew could grow more. She's in the medical history books for this feat. I was 7. Her confession helped me understand why we called Jason Pork Chop and Matthew Peanut. Okay, Mommy, your secret's safe with me, and it was for 50 more years. Daddy Don and Karen picked us up. My brother and I sat in the back seat, clutching hands. Who was this scary redhead Mom just let us go away with anyway? I cried the whole way. How can you do that to your child? Either one of you. I was in my 40s, and Don still maintained that it was a lie that he tried to kill 2-year-old me. Why didn't you just ask me? You've been hanging on to that all your life? It just isn't true. Well, because, Pops, I've learned you can't ask a liar for the truth. Next section. Life must be lived forward, but can only be understood looking backwards. Mhm. So maybe it is true. And it explains why I'm so claustrophobic, that the mere thought of being contained makes my heart race. No wonder turtlenecks freaked me out as a kid. Heck, I can't even wear a cast on my broken wrist because the thought that I could not get it off by myself puts me into full-on terror mode. I've seen the hospital photos of you, sissy. He really did that to you. That was Bruce, my mother's third husband. After 30 years together, he finally had something to say to me. Oh, okay. Thanks for piping up. Jeez Louise, the lies. Do they ever stop? Yeah, well, you had an older sister, but she died at birth. I visit her at the cemetery. I'll take you with me someday, Daddy Don promised. What was her name, Dad? Sarah. Oh, that's a pretty name. I felt so bad for Mom. Imagine losing a baby at birth, right? Huh. I had to give up my first baby girl for adoption because your father wasn't going to raise another man's child, Mom said. Um, what? All along, she'd said the baby died too. Now hang on a minute here. Is this a coin toss for the truth or what? It gets better. A year ago, in a rare visit to Facebook, I discovered that I'd been discovered. Multiple messages akin to, "We all read your book, Life Lessons Learned from a Lousy Mother, and we all loved it." Oh, wow, cool. People seldom take the time to say something, let alone hunt me down. I silently hope for a few reviews on Amazon where it matters so much to authors. I wondered who "we" was. A book club or a group of women trying to restore themselves after childhood traumas too. I was so excited until one of them quickly messaged me back. "Hi, I'm your aunt, and we found you thanks to a DNA test your half-sister did. Her husband encouraged her to find out who her birth family was so she could know more about her mother, brother, and sister." Wait, what? Is this a joke? Mom passed the year before. We hadn't spoken in years. Who wants to hang out with a mean-spirited woman ever, let alone when she's your mother? And still I cried my eyes out in an unexplained wail. My mom's dead. Those words are so final. It's a shock to the system when your mother dies. Trite things like, "I'm sure she's in a better place," are better left unsaid, by the way. They comfort no one. And frankly, I wasn't sure she was in a better place, whatever that means. Sidebar, thanks to a near-death experience of drowning in the ocean, I can assure you that dying is easier than living. Pulling out of my body, floating in a peaceful calm, was awesome. There is no association with fear or pain at all. 12-year-old me registered the experiences. Cool. Please let that sink in. Live out loud now. Do it. Whatever it is that calls to you. So many people are living to avoid death, they aren't living at all. "It isn't your time yet," was whispered to me more than a few times in life as I tried to end my life. "I am divinely guided, connected, and protected" is a mantra worth repeating. Someone or something is looking out for you. Trust your inner GPS. And as my good friend and mentor says, Mark Victor Hansen, Chicken Soup for the Soul, says, "What you want wants you even more than you want it." I always loved him for his one-liners. My mother, who was a psychic medium, used to say, "When I come back next time, I'm doing what you did, sissy. No kids for starters, and travel." Yeah, I thought, yeah, I couldn't wait to break free, and you made it pretty clear kids were the bane of your existence, Mom. I'm glad I held some value to her, even if it is in the next lifetime. Name it, claim it, make it so. As for me, I ain't coming back. My intention is to die laughing, seriously, and exit the Matrix. Back to the half-sister thing. It turned out we attended the same high school at the same time, 2 grades apart. We knew some of the same people, too. That we happened to have had the same mother didn't create an instant bond or spark interest, frankly. This lack of interest on my part came from her lack of interest or response, or lack of, to several wake-up videos. I'd paid a dear price for being ignorant and wanted her to show her about food shortages. So listen to The Pressure Cooker or read that in volume 1. She clearly didn't want to wake up. We had nothing in common. Adopted at birth into a calm, normal, and loving family was her good fortune. My fortune was a carnival act by comparison. She wanted to meet me, but honestly, revisiting the lives and lies our mother and my father told me for decades was no picnic. With her came a whole bunch more stuff. Sure, I get it. My reaction is my stuff. It's also my option to opt out. I said, I hear you. I know you want to know what your birth mother was like. Well, you read my book. 20 minutes later, the picture's crystal clear, ain't it? You dodged a bullet. I canceled obligatory plans made to rendezvous and stopped feeling guilty instantly. I've been rattled awake enough this year. If you happen to feel obliged to get familial, but you don't feel it, don't feel guilty over it. You aren't required by law to embrace total strangers no matter what the backstory is, okay? Sometimes that package deal isn't so hot. My brother Jason said, Sis, if you don't feel it, don't do it. I'd rather seem rude for a minute than live with regret forever. And speaking of backstories, past lives was always at best to me. I never understood the fascination. Trying to make it through this one is enough of a battle. And side note, I've come to believe there's more to past life stuff than meets the eye. It's on a cellular memory level stuff that we bring in to rebalance pretty much. So here we are. I'm in my early 30s, and in a massive effort to understand why I felt so depressed when tests prove it wasn't a chemical imbalance, I sought help from a new source, a birth chart reading. 5 people, all new to natal chart reading, were keen to try out their skills. Assigned to wait out of earshot, I watched them hunker down over the card table, quietly discussing their findings. 20 minutes later, their leader poked his head up from the huddle. Ma'am, can you come over here, please? We want to make sure we're on track. I had no idea what to expect, but it sure as hell wasn't this. We see here on your chart that you were 3 when your parents got divorced. Is that correct? Holy shit. Yeah, that's right. So my parents getting divorced is on my chart? Is it all there? Like, is it all already done? Hesitantly, he said, Yes, except you have free will in how things go. But yes, you were born with a blueprint for your life. I said, what if it seems like out of free will, I go left instead of right? How do we know that isn't on the chart already, Tip? After a long pause, he agreed. As much as reading this, as much as this reading gave me a jolt, it gave them all something to think about. Ever since that day, I've wondered, is it all already done? Are we mere passengers and ought to just put our feet up on the dashboard, letting the wind blow our skirts up? This flew in the face of all the spiritual teachings about the law of attraction and personal development, saying we are driving the car. Are we really? A minor car accident left me with a severe whiplash. I was devastated. All I wanted was to take a nice ferry ride to Whidbey Island, a rare timeout. But no, this fender bender wrecked me. Can't I have anything work out? So much of my life has been near misses. Almost made it. Not quite. A for effort. And that day was no different. When was it going to work out for me? Life was suddenly full of appointments with a chiropractor and a physical therapist. Great. And for some odd reason, in spite of sold out 6 months in advance, I was prompted to see if I could get an appointment with Jeffrey Green. The world-famous psychic medium and astrologer was headed to Seattle, and I got an appointment. What should I ask him? I never expected to get a spot. Now what? The most interesting idea came from my physical therapist. You hurt your neck in the accident, but we treat the whole body. Your whole body was in the accident, right? Yeah. Ask him why you cry when I massage your butt. It makes no sense. I think there's more going on. Sure, that isn't awkward at all. He was right, though. Nearly every night, my housemate, a masseuse, would plop down on the floor and dig her elbows into my butt cheeks while we watched TV. It was as if I couldn't get enough. But it did make me cry. Well, Mr. Green hesitantly answered my question. I couldn't imagine why he was being so careful with his words. Part of your soul's task this time is to rebalance the loss of power. Um, you see, in a not too distant lifetime ago, your bottom was destroyed and you died from it. You have cellular memory of this event, and your job is to regain the loss of power that took your life. Your body has been trying to tell you this. He refused to detail this awful sounding experience. This was about fixing, not fixating. Ah, no wonder an appointment opened up, huh? He nodded. Well, what do I do? How do I fix this? That's for you to figure out, he said. What am I paying you for, man? I only thought about saying it, but he was psychic. He knew and just smiled. About a year later, I answered a personal ad. The man I got involved with was not my type, yet I was compelled to explore his ideas. He wanted a mistress, as in BDSM type of mistress. Oh, okay. A whole new world opened up, one full of communication and open-minded exploration in role-playing. I never imagined myself being a dominatrix, but he was into being controlled, so I played along. It was fun for a while. The thigh-high leather boots were really a knockout too, just quietly. And nobody got hurt. It wasn't about that at all. This one-time experience put vanilla relationships to shame with all that fumbling around in the dark. No pun intended. But I'll tell you something. At this point in all of this, not at any point in all of this was I thinking about Jeffrey Green saying I needed to find a way to rebalance the loss of power that took my life. Yet, at some point in all of this, my butt stopped hurting. Ain't that a kick in the pants? Oh. In June, while celebrating my 60th birthday, I fell and broke 2 bones in my wrist. So much for celebrating. Not a good look for a freelance writer either, especially since I'd just secured a ghostwriting job for an 83-year-old man's memoir. As if the breaks, sprains, and bruises weren't enough, the fall knocked the creativity right out of me. It was like being in a bad car accident. Oh, God. Now what? I just can't write your memoir right now, John. My forearm's sprained, everything is swollen. There's no way to sit that's comfortable, and typing one letter at a time is, well, you can imagine, right? No problem. No rush, he said. What a blessing. He knew what it was like to instantly lose use of your arm, mobility, and basic functions in life. Double blessings for sure. If you've been there, you get it. He got it. But I was finally making my mark as a ghostwriter, and wham! Stopped cold. Almost made it again. Again. Almost. Sound familiar? Broken bones take 8 months to heal, and wrists are about a year, my nurse friend said more than once. Oh, great. I got the high sign not to do surgery. Please read The Art of Traveling Light in Rattled Awake Volume 3. It's also on audio. I got the high sign not to do surgery, couldn't handle having a cast, claustrophobia, and had no other option but to be patient, hoping to regain use of my fingers someday. No more camping, biking, hiking, chopping vegetables even. Everything I used to do was a no-go. Depression, despair, and admittedly personal ass-kicking ruled my every thought. By the end of August, I needed to make money, but still couldn't sit at a desk for long. This is how and why Rattled Awake came into being. I knew I wasn't the only one who'd been shook over the past few years. I just knew there were others who had a message, a pivot, a Rattled Awake event to share. And since I love doing story development and content strategy, wordsmithing and publishing, and they could be guided to write a chapter in one weekend, it was a win-win. The writing workshops give anthology writers knowledge and skills they'll use for a lifetime by promoting each volume to bestseller status. All of them are still bestsellers. The co-authors' lives are changed forever, as are the readers' lives. This has become the most rewarding work I have ever done. But that isn't the point. Were it not for the disarming injury, I might have never experienced this mind-blowing chapter. Surely one of those meant-to-be moments, another cellular memory event. Maybe I should call it cellular memory. One of the co-authors, who happens to read Akashic Records, offered to do a free session. Zero interest in the records, but desperate to understand why in the world I crashed before takeoff again. Again, I agreed. By the time our Zoom room was open, my eyes were already swollen from crying. Dr. Michaela Turner, a co-author and the records reader, kindly bore witness as I sobbed my heart out in frustration, grief, sadness, and pain. What the F is wrong with me? Why can't I? She finished. She knew. She finished my question. Why do you only get so far and then crash? Yes. Why? What the fuck? It's not for lack of trying. And man, feeling repeatedly defeated is exhausting. She said they, the records, were showing her I was a Roman soldier back in the days of King Herod. The king ordered us to kill all babies 2 years and younger. It was his way of assuring the Messiah, if he was born, would never grow up. God. Talk about an insecure, ego-driven control freak, huh? And P.S., wouldn't the Messiah know what the evil plan was? Okay, just say. The record said I felt that I could have stopped this from happening. In fact, I felt so responsible for not stopping it, the murder of these babies, that I fell on my sword. I died thinking it was all my fault. They went on to say that lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, like a ball and chain around my ankle, I've carried guilt so big for so long that it has continued to manifest as self-punishment. They emphasized, you need to hear this. You couldn't have stopped Herod. It was preordained to occur, and you did what you had to do in the role of a soldier. Preordained? You know it begs the question, is it all already done? Anyway, Dr. Michaela had me reach down and imagine myself releasing that ball and chain. I'm not going to lie, this was not easy. I was sobbing, cursing, unruly, and difficult to work with. But she just held the space with kindness and an air of, it's okay. It's okay to feel this way. I'm still here. That alone was healing. She somehow balanced out all the conditional love I was raised with. Her beautiful presence really altered something at a cellular level. If you've ever wondered, WTF, why do I stop short? What's this guilt I'm carrying? Maybe it ain't all your childhood trauma. Or when is it going to be my turn? You're not alone. If this chapter does nothing else but point you to a possible resolution, then typing this puppy with one finger, all 3,448 words, and 10 hours invested, was totally worth it. Wherever you have raised yourself up out of, whatever it took for you to get this far, bless you. You too have lived to tell about it. Please share your Rattled Awake story and become a story healer. Your message matters more than you realize. And this is my bio. Lonnee Rey is on a mission to promote the voices of others whose stories will elevate, inspire, and change our world for the better. She is the editor-in-chief for the Rattled Awake series, a story development coach, book producer, multi-show podcast host, and author message consultant. You can find all the Rattled Awake books, plus her books, Life Lessons Learned from a Lousy Mother, and How to Deal with a Dumbass, What to Do and Say When They Come Your Way, on Amazon. If you would like to share your Rattled Awake story in the future, please connect with her over at officialrattledawake.com. Thank you so much for listening. And say it forward. I hope you'll share this. Thank you.